Welcome to the Lift Your Story podcast with our guest, Coach Lee.
Hello, everyone. I am Lorianne. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. We'd like to welcome you to our Lift Your Story podcast.
So today, our guest is Coach Lee. Thanks for being with us today.
Glad to be with you guys and excited to share my story.
Right. That's what we want to know. So you're a health coach for business professionals, correct?
Yes. I specialize in helping those busy business professionals get their life back on track and, live the healthy lifestyle they want. So very important.
Yes, it is. Health is the main thing we need to be able to do anything else. Right?
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, without it, you can't do what you want in life, right? The other things that you want to do, it really starts with yourself. So if you don't start there, you're going to lose sight of everything else. So you have to always get back to yourself and focus on you to get to everything else that you want.
So what kind of approaches do you take in your health strategy as a coach?
So for me, the big thing is really understanding that client. I think it's very important to understand that each person is different and everyone has as the podcast says, has a different story. So to really focus on where they want to get to, I really have to understand where they've been in the past and really understand that first, before we even go into the fitness, the nutrition, the mindset. Yes, those are important, but I really need to understand that person, where they've been and where they want to get to. And once we can get to that and actually assessing, the issues that they may be facing, then I can give them the solution that they really want. I know the program has a solution for them, but I can't offer that solution until we really understand that. So once we can really understand some of the issues they're facing, now I can really build that program around those issues and to make sure they get to their goals and the solution of course, a healthy lifestyle, the long-term picture of that.
So you're customizing it for each individual as you go along.
Yeah. So you kind of start with a consultation to learn about that person, what their needs and wants, what they're trying to do, and then you go forward from there, right?
Yes, it's like going to the doctor. I tell someone, if you have an injury and you tell your doctor, hey, prescribe me this medicine or prescribe me this surgery, they're going to tell you like, wait, we got to go through the process first. We need to identify to make sure you actually think it is what you're saying, right? They're not just going to, prescribe you a medication or send you off to the next specialist to get the surgery. You really have to kind of understand the symptoms really, right? The symptoms of what's going on before you get to that. So it really starts with that. Yeah, the assessment portion is very important. You have to take it serious to really make sure that you're giving the right solution, because like I said, I take it like someone's going to a doctor. You don't want to give somebody the wrong prescription for them as far as the programming is concerned. You got to really make sure that it's fit for them and to make sure that, we can work on their goals. Because specifically how my program may be built out, it might be better for them to be with a certain other coach, maybe if their goals aren't in line to what the program actually is going to cover.
That's important.
Has COVID really, or how has COVID really impacted people as far as their health from what you've seen in your experience?
I think this has really impacted on a great level. I'm used to, as a coach, people will get motivated at different times of the year and they might, have certain things that they want to accomplish, but I've never seen where, a whole year where it really just, stops someone's progress. And it's kind of crazy because I know we're all in different areas, right? Particularly here in the States, different states have left it up to, I should say that the government has left it up to different states. So in certain states, some people might not have been without the gym. Like here, I'm in Texas, and we were kind of without, I think, for 6 weeks, and we've been since. And I know in certain states that they have been really affected where they did get back to it. So for some people, they're so used to the routine of going to the gym, and it's like when you give somebody kind of that wild card to say, hey, you got to change what you're doing. It's kind of hard for some people to change routine if you're so used to doing it, because we are creatures of habit. So for a lot of people, of them stopping their usual routine, they've kind of been left with like, okay, what do I do now? And then you just also have to think about the mental side of it, of course, not being around people, the social interactions. A lot of people have been kind of, depressed from those things. So it stops them from really, wanting to focus on themselves, because they have a lot of things that could be going on with that. So I haven't seen him, my experience, I've been in the gym 7+ years and I haven't seen that before. So, with me, I'm online now, so I don't, directly always on the gym floor, but when I'm going to my workouts and I'm, at the gym, I can see the difference. It's crazy. I was starting this year, going to the gym, and when you see the gym in January, it's like a madhouse because everyone's focusing on a New Year, resolution and everything. And I noticed, like, hey, it didn't happen this year. It was not that big boom of people you would see on the gym floor. And, I felt like it was just a normal time going to the gym as far as a dead period. So I think a lot of people are still either not going to the gym, or maybe they might just be focusing on the home workouts. But it has definitely had a big effect on it in the wrong direction.
Well, I've seen on Facebook where a lot of people post, now I've gained 10 pounds. I'm sitting around snacking all day, that I normally wouldn't do. I can't get outside, whether it's the weather or they're afraid of social distancing, whatever. And, I've seen a lot of people post on Facebook about, they're wanting to get back. They're wanting to get back to work. They're wanting to get back in the gym. They want to start working out because they're just sitting home and gaining weight, because they're not working.
That's true. So
Yeah, I think that's been a big issue.
I'm sort of curious. So you have your clients. Do you have any clients that have been a challenge through this process?
I think it kind of just depends. I mean, for me, most of my clients have had been a smooth transition. I think for some people it might be different if you're used to. So I used to personal train for years, and now recently within the last year, I've only just focused on the online. So the typical approach is personal training is different from a coaching aspect. Personal trainer, you're meeting with your trainer in person, so you're focusing on the sessions versus coaching, it's remote, right? So I'm giving you all the resources within the program, and I'm checking in with you, I'm doing all those stuff, but it's different when you're not having somebody there in person. So for some people, if they might have been used to the personal training model, it feels different. But I think once they get used to it, I have had some clients that I did train in person. They did transition with me when I did go completely online, and they really didn't have any issues with it. But I think some people, if they're like so stuck on doing it a certain way, and when they do it, if they're resistant to it, I could see that. But I haven't came across it. But I could see maybe somebody that might be so used to an old model of doing something, and they're just kind of not getting used to it. But I mean, with me, I think the world is so digital now. I mean, it's just kind of odd not to get used to doing things with apps and all these other things. So I think for most people, it's kind of just, comfortable and they're used to doing it.
So have you jumped onto the Clubhouse bandwagon?
Unfortunately, for being an Android person, I can't even do it. But I actually feel left out. It's like a party that everyone's having, and you're just on the outside looking in, and you're like, man, I would love to be in that party, but somehow I can't get in because, I'm not, they're not allowing me to get in. So I do feel left out because it's just like, gosh, I mean, you're hearing so many stories of people saying it's the best thing and it's an awesome platform to connect with people. And it's like, well, you got Facebook, you got LinkedIn, you got Instagram. It's like, okay, I'm on those and maybe to connect with people, but it's like you're left out on the new thing that everyone's doing, and it's just kind of like frustrating. It's like, man, I guess I got to get an iPhone.
I think that was the strategy. I do believe they are going to end up with the Android. They have done that in the past, but they're making a lot of sales in the interim. Funny fact here, I did have a little iPad mini. I just sold my iPad Pro, but I had a little iPad mini, and I thought, okay, maybe I can get on. So I'm all excited because I found it because it was put away. And I go to post, I try to get onto Clubhouse, and it goes, you need version 13. And I have version 12.51, and I'm going, really? Oh, well, it's good because then I won't be addicted like all these people. I'm already too social media focused anyway. It's probably, somebody up there telling me, I'm not letting you get on this today because you're just going to end up wasting so much time and not getting anything done, So that's one part.
Right. I think that's true. I mean, it's hard sometimes when you're in business and you're online. So you got to kind of make sure you stay focused on just the business aspect of it and you don't get caught up in the other stuff, right? Because I mean, I know for me that is the thing, is like I have to be on because it is business and I do interact with people online. But you're right, it could be the temptation sometimes to turn the direction to the other things, and then you're like, okay, wait, now I'm spending time as the consumer, not as somebody that's trying to do it for business. So it's hard sometimes, right? It's that dilemma.
And we all know that when you're on social media, how quick the time goes. You blink and it's 3 hours later and you're going, what did I get done? Nothing, because I was playing.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't do my workout. Sorry, Coach Lee. Right. I was on Clubhouse.
Yeah, it's crazy how the time can go by. And I mean, that's something that we're always trying to focus on, right? Because you hear all these new studies of how we're, too wrapped up in social media. So it is trying to control that, right? Because that could be taken away, like you said, for maybe focus on yourself and getting healthier, or some of the other things that you're trying to do, right? That you want to be productive. So definitely it's about balance, I think. And that's one thing I talk about. We just got to balance. If we can find the right balance, then everything's good.
Well, you kind of start out with a new person kind of in mindset first, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think that's always a thing of, when you're really identifying that at first, is like you have to do that in order to, progress where you want to be at. I mean, if you don't do that, then yeah, it's kind of hard, right?
Yeah, and they have to get their mind in the right frame to really move forward.
Exactly. As I say, you can't change anything if you don't change up there, right? The mindset and everything. And if you focus on, I like to say, the external thing, right? You just think, oh, the new flashy diet, right? How many fad diets are always going to change, right? We've been seeing it for years. Or the same thing with the workouts, or these new, accessories and equipment. If you're just focusing on that, but you're not focusing on the actual mindset, it doesn't change, because you might get a temporary fix, right? It might give you something new and you're like, oh, this is an awesome new solution and I'm good now. But it's like, well, later when it kind of dissipates, now you're back to where you were. Well, really you're not, because numbers say that you actually start off worse. So you have to really be able to focus on that mindset first, and getting your ways to shift your way of thinking. And if you can shift your way of thinking, that's when you really get to the good stuff. And that's when you're going to have the results to be sustainable. And what I tell people, it doesn't matter if you get the results in the short term, but it's not sustainable, right? You don't want to be a lottery winner, right? How many lottery winners get rich and then they just lose all their money? That's no fun. I mean, you get, that short little bit of, I guess you had some money and you're back to where you were, or worse off. And we see that all the time in the field of people getting results, and then they just get back to being worse off than they started. And that's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah, the honeymoon is over, right? Like some people go through that. They get all excited. And then when the honeymoon is over, it just, it drops down. So that's unfortunate, but there's a lot of people like that. Yeah.
It was interesting. You mentioned all the fad diets and stuff. So, talking about, say, diets and nutrition. Okay. So people go on a diet, and it's like you say, it's a short-term thing, but then it's really, you have to make a total lifestyle change. It's not, I mean, there's things you can do to improve your diet, improve your nutrition, but it's that lifestyle change that goes on after you get down to that goal weight or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's so true. What most people lose sight of when you're doing these diets, there are some people that do get the results for the long term, but that is so drastic for you to have an identity shift. this is what we don't look at when you're going on a diet. It's really identity shift, because most of these diets are very restrictive. So unless you're going to have a complete, this is drastic. Most people are never going to have an identity shift where they're just going to be a full-on believer that this is the only way, right? You have to literally believe that is the only way, which is not really realistic for most people because it's so restrictive. You have the things that you enjoy because you think about it from as childhood, you're used to eating certain foods that may be centered around, family gatherings, holidays, all these other things, right? You're so used to it. So to completely just stop from doing that is very difficult. So it doesn't simply work to think that you're going to be able to do this diet for the long term. I do think if you had the mindset of understanding, hey, I'm going to kind of use this diet to kind of give me some results, but then I'm going to learn some things, because you can learn things from restrictive diets. I'm not a believer in them, but there are things that you can learn from them that you can apply into your diet. But it's kind of like there's either one way or the other way, basically. It's like either the diet or what they're used to. They don't really can kind of understand how maybe to blend some of the things in. So it really stops the progress once you get off the diet, because you're just going to go back to where you were, and it doesn't help that all the other things that change with it doesn't really benefit from it. So yeah, that's kind of the issue with just following these different diets. And like I said, people have been doing it for years, but then the numbers tell us that they don't work because people just start off worse than they began. So very important that somebody understands that they have to work on the principles and not just the diet.
Yeah. So, I mean, like somebody come to you and go, hey, last time I did say paleo diet or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
man, I lost in 30 days, I lost like 25 pounds, And so you say, well, that was probably great, but what we need to do is maybe combine some of those things and then some other nutritional things where you get a more balanced, well-rounded nutritional diet instead of going to an extreme. You know, let's just do something slow where we can start changing your habits, and they can be lifelong, not just drastic boom and then going right back to where you were or even worse.
Yeah, that's very true, because you're right. Somebody does learn what made the diet successful. There are things that they should have kind of understood what happened. So if you want to think of what every diet, doesn't matter. There's thousands of diets. We just can boil it down to one thing. They get you to stop overeating, basically, right? Because if you're trying to lose weight, you're eating less calories. Now, they may have you eating more foods that are going to be better for you, and which is what I talk about. I mean, you kind of got to eat some foods that are going to be better for you, but all it's doing is just making sure that you're not overeating. So it's okay. Well, now, what are some of the foods that you do love? Because to me, that's what I think is important. Is you got to understand, like, we all have different tastes, and so you want to have different type of diets that your diet is going to be composed of by the foods. So from there, it's like, for me, I really try to get that person to understand, okay, what are the foods you love? Okay, what are the foods I can make you eat more of that are going to be really great for your nutrition
Mm-hmm.
and get you to start, having more energy and having the other things that you want. And then if we can do that, then, those are things you can do for a lifetime. And I tell people, it's not that you can't enjoy some of the foods that are quote unquote junk food, but how do you balance it? It's just like in life. I mean, we don't work, every waking minute, right? No, we work hard, and you get the results, but then you have your time where you're able to, relax and have leisure. Well, the same thing can happen in your diet. And if you can understand that, that's how you get the results, for a lifetime, not just for, the goal that you may have for this year.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying, well, one of my favorite things is pepperoni pizza. And you go, okay, well, tell you what, a couple of slices of pepperoni pizza won't kill you, but don't eat the whole pizza. Right?
Yeah, yeah. It's really what you mentioned is just balance. It's like, well, greed is something we don't want to do, right? Because that's just greed, right? If you're just over consuming something. So yeah, how do you understand to balance? Like you said, it's not that, hey, that 1-2 slices of pizza, because I love pizza myself. That's my favorite food. So it's, well, how do you balance that to have pizza maybe on maybe one day of the week, but not every day of the week, or not overeating? And that's the thing. We always have to understand it's not one burger, it's not one pizza that made you where you're at. It's over time. It's a compound effect. It's just like debt, right? Nobody gets over debt from one purchase. Is because of what have you done, to accumulate that. So it's just getting someone to understand, like, it's not, the one time of you doing it. It's the repeated effect of it. So you have to understand how to balance, and that's what balance comes in. Like I said, that's balance, because you're not doing too much of something. You're doing enough good of, and then you're balancing with the other stuff that you need to have happen.
Yeah, and they also have to recognize too, I know that I think it's primarily in women, but if they'll have one piece of pizza, then they go, well, I blew it, so I may as well eat more. And I know men do that too.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that they have to be conscious of. No, you didn't blow it. Stop now. Like, it was good. You enjoyed it, right? So don't worry about it. That one piece is not going to really hurt you. But if you sit there and say, I blow it, and you have the whole pizza, then yes, then that's going to be a problem. But that's one thing that I guess they call it a trigger, that they just, people have to be conscious of. Yeah, enjoy it, but just don't overindulge. Don't let that put you down and say, oh, I failed. And that's the one thing they've got to stop getting in their vocabulary, as far as I'm concerned, is stop thinking you failed. Yeah, you had the pizza. Good. Did you enjoy it? Good. Okay. Stop.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
That's what we call I'm always making people avoid. It's called the all or nothing approach, right? It's either all or nothing. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. Don't listen to what some people say. Like, if you don't do this 100% correctly, like, you failed. And it's like, we're not perfect. What do you do in your life that you do 100% correct all the time? It's not realistic. So as you mentioned, that is so important, that you do not get wrapped up and be like, oh, I messed up, and, well, I'm a failure, and I guess it's not for me. It's like, no, it's human. You might have, even if you did overeat, okay, it's fine. There's so many other meals. There's so many other days, and you can just turn it back around. But if you, beat yourself up, then that's when you really get down on yourself. And I always have to be a reminder, even to clients sometimes, if they feel like they mess up, it's like, hey, it's okay. It happens. Just get back to being focused, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. So your people, your professionals you work with, trying to get them to work out, to fit in exercise, change their diet and all that, because I'm so busy, I don't have time. How do you convince them, yes, you do have time?
Yeah, it's so important. It's really the management, right? The management of our time. That is a problem that most people have. Is like, hey, we're only going to get 24 hours in a day. But if I told you, hey, less than 3% of your time each week of just even the workouts, the diet, everything else that comes with it, it takes less than 3%. And they're like, really? Well, yeah, it's how you're using your time. As we mentioned, if you're, using your time not right, then that's why you're having trouble with it. So, one thing I like to work with people to understand is like, hey, your schedule, you're blocking out time for your meetings, you're blocking out time for the things that you feel are important, but why aren't you doing it for yourself? Because most people will not do it for themselves. They will not block out that workout. And I'm like, how hard is it to block out that 30 minutes? That 30 minutes, you have time in your schedule, but you don't block it out for yourself because you don't think it's as important as these meetings and everything else, right? You're putting all the things that you have, right? When you got to go to your kids' games, and you have to like go to the meetings, your doctor's appointments, all these things that you're going to put in your schedule. But why don't you do it for yourself? And if they can start doing it for themselves, they're going to be like, well, oh man, I had 30 minutes right there, but I didn't put that time in for myself. So it's just really getting them to understand it's how you're using the time. And sometimes people think that they have to use too much time. And I'm like, it really doesn't take that much time. You do not have to spend 2 hours working out a day. Like, this is not true. It's how efficient you are. Efficiency is what we need people to understand. It's not the just duration time, because I could spend 2 hours in a gym and I could be really doing nothing, or I could spend 15 to 30 minutes and get the most out of my workout, and I have time for all these other things that that you need to do. Because I mean, the thing is, I understand that people are busy, and I tell them like, hey, those things are important. You have to be for your kids. You have to be for your business and your relationships and these other things. Like, that is important, but yourself is as well. So let's make time for that.
I like there was, sorry, Rise, just wanted to say before I forget this, there's a group of people, we talked about what you do in your day, and what I would put under what they call a non-negotiable. What you do is in the morning, you take care of your non-negotiables. You just do it. It's not negotiated. You do it. And I love that term. You read, you meditate, or do breathing exercise, and you work out. Those are the three things that are non-negotiables in a lot of people's lives, but they make it negotiable. And the point is they shouldn't. Yeah.
And like when I was working out, I used to, because I was always after work, I was tired. I wanted to get home, fighting traffic. And you always have these people that the gym is their social outlet. They want to, the guys are looking for the girls are looking for the guys. So they're standing there leaning on the machine, chit chatting, kind of like, and say, oh, well, I've got 2 more reps. Well, can you get out of the way? Let me do, but there's, that frustrated me, but anyway, it just, and another thing, talking about time, my boss used to say, hey, there's 3 8-hour work days in 24 hours.
Yeah, it's just important, like Lori says, the non-negotiable. You're right. If you make time for it, then you're going to get the results. But if you don't make time for it, then that's why you're going to stay in the same position, because you're not making time for it. And I think it's important to have a routine. You have to have a routine, and like you said, it has to be some of those non-negotiables. And I know, that's what helps me. I notice if I do the routine how it's supposed to be done, I'm going to be a lot more productive. And I think we understand we're organized, like you said. You put time for these things, but if you can start prioritizing some of the things you may not be doing, then you're going to start getting results. So it just really comes down to that, and that's really the way of thinking. It comes all into that, to change your way of thinking, to get you to understand why it's so important.
Yeah.
I've been putting it off. I have to put my list. So I have my reading and I have my breathing, but my exercise, I've kind of not listed it as my non-negotiable yet. I was working out really well. And that's the other thing too. That's a problem, is when people stop, and COVID will cause that. There's some of us that it's hard to get back on that treadmill. And you quit and you go, oh, and yet you've done like 6 months or 2 years or 5 years, and it's been like consistent, then you stop. It's hard sometimes to get back there,
But it's easy for you, Lorianne, because you don't have to leave the house. You can just grab your snow shovel, go out on the front, just shovel.
That's my workout.
You got your workout.
Oh, that's a workout.
It is. And it's like, it's a 2-hour driveway. So yes, it is a workout. But on those days that there's no snow, I do have all the equipment, and I'll go through these stages, go really well for like 3 to 6 months, and then I don't do it for a week. And I go, oh gosh, I can't get back onto it. And I know I'm not the only one, because I've heard a lot of people do that. When they break the routine cycle and they stop it being a non-negotiable, it's hard to get it back on your list as being negotiable, like a non-negotiable again.
So Lee, what would be your advice to these busy entrepreneurs that are out of balance, and want to get healthy, just don't know where to start? What would your advice be to them?
I would tell them just to focus on just doing one habit at first. Just focus on one habit. I think what everyone tries to do, it's like they overwhelm themselves, because they're trying to do everything at once. It's like, you cannot do everything at once. And if you do that, you're just going to overwhelm yourself. Like, you have to do things in phases. Like, it depends where you start from. If you're somebody that was very active before and you were doing all these things, it's going to be a lot easier for you to do it, because you're like, well, I'm used to doing that. But if you've been, I've worked with people where they may have took off 10, 15 years of doing nothing. Well, how can I expect you just to do everything at once? You haven't been doing it for 10 to 15 years versus maybe somebody's like, oh, just 3 months. Well, 3 months isn't a long time. It's a lot easier. So I think that person first has to identify where they're at, because if you don't know where you're at, it's going to be very hard. So for some people, if you've been doing it, not doing it, I should say, for a long time, well, just focus on one habit that can help you. And it doesn't always have to be something where you think is like, okay, it's just the workouts or the diet. There's other things that are going to help you. Like Lori said, reading a book actually is amazing. I've gotten a routine of reading more, and that's helped me in so many aspects of life, because if you work on a personal development book, it's going to talk about things that you can do, not just for your health, but your wealth, your happiness, your relationship. So maybe get into a routine of just reading every day just to get your mind right. And maybe once your mind starts getting right, now it makes it easier to be like, okay, I can work out 15 minutes this day. Or, well, next week, let me focus on removing some of these things out of my diet and start eating more of the things I need in my diet. And then the following week, let me start sleeping more. So there's so many habits that are going to help you, but do not try to do every habit at once when you get started, because it's going to be very hard. And you got to understand, I even tell my clients, I'm like, they think, well, they're like a horse, they're off the gates, that you're just going to be, just super fast. And it's like, it's not realistic. I understand that it's going to take time. So, I always tell them within the first month is like really setting the foundation. Start setting the foundation of things, then you can start really getting the results. So I would just tell someone, just, hey, don't try to go in overdrive. Just focus on one habit, then slowly start putting other things together.
That's good.
Yeah. So how can our listeners reach out to you for coaching?
Awesome. If they wanted to, even if maybe they're not ready for coaching now, but if they do want to start doing some things that are healthier, definitely, if they're on social media, they can find me. So my name, Lee Agbola, you can see me on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you do have an Instagram, it's Coach Lee_LTA Performance. And if you just want to see more of my amazing results I've given my clients, they can, see me on my website, which is ltaperformance365.com. And then from there, they can get directly in contact with me.
Okay, great, man, great.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate you being here with us and sharing that information.
Yes. Sure.
I had a great time, and I hope everyone has gotten value from this, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm sure they have. I did.
I did too. Perfect. Thank you so much, Lee, again, Coach Lee.
Yeah.
And
it was a pleasure to meet you.
absolutely. Take
Pleasure
care.
to meet you both. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.